Long before Glenturret, long before Glenlivet, and all other manner of distilleries claiming to be the oldest, there stood an abbey in Fife making a lot of something unusual. Time flowed, and the abbey was forgotten. Over many centuries, entropy and decay set in, the bricks turned to dust, and the abbey looked to never distill again. I've been looking forward to this one a little bit. Now, if you don't recognise the name on this whisky, that's not terribly surprising. This is another one of those new whisky distillery releases that are so popular this year and a little bit of last year as well. This is Lindores. I've actually covered this distillery already on the channel a little over a year ago. Lindores for Lockdown. Lockdown 1, the original Lockdown. Weren't they the days? They released a tasting kit of their whisky, except it wasn't whisky, it was maturing spirit, because it wasn't quite old enough yet to be classed as whisky. And what they did was they drew from different casks so you could get an idea of kind of like the cask maturations that they were doing. It was sort of the closest you could get to single cask Lindores at the time. And having thought about it, actually, it was a pretty big deal, really. And it was really fun, and we learnt lots about the distillery and the history behind kind of like the site that they're on now in Fife. And the whisky themselves, well, the maturing spirit itself was fucking brilliant. Really, really good stuff. There's a card. You can watch my thoughts on that. It's about 22 odd minutes. There is a point I make on that one, which is that it cemented my opinion that age doesn't make a difference. I cringed a little bit at that point recently when I rewatched it. Obviously age does make a difference, but the point I was making was there are other factors that go into the product, that how sort of quality is perceived. And I think the point I was trying to make was there was some sort of commercially successful 21-year-olds that weren't as good as some of the young buck, you know, unchill filtered, natural presentation kind of whiskies that are coming out at the minute that are just really showing the old boys how it's done. With that in mind, I finally got this. This is the whiskey I've been looking forward to. I've mentioned it in a couple of other new release videos. I mentioned it in the Neon, and I mentioned it in the Rasse, which was a fairly recent video. Lindores, since I basically since I tried their new make, really, I've been looking forward to their eventual release. And I knew that it was going to be sort of age ready, that's a weird way of terming it, around about December last year. And then there was the expensive release for kind of like all their backers. You could buy a £500 membership and you get a bottle of the stuff. I don't have 500 quid just randomly lying around, so I had to wait for the everyman version. I was pleasantly surprised that this did not cost a fortune, because Lindores finally started talking about the release of this, and I got giddy. And then I got trepidatious because they would not release any information about the price. And I started thinking, oh fuck, this is going to cost a fortune, isn't it? Pleasantly, no, it did about 45 quid. About the average with like Neon, Rasse, Ardnamurchan, was that around about that kind of price point as well? Daffmill's maybe not the best comparison with that one. That one's kind of just sort of new Macmillan? No, Macallan, that's the one. I'm fine. Let's have a look at the bottle. Let's have a quick look at the bottle. So it's actually it's basically their Aqua Vitae bottle. If you've not come across Aqua Vitae, it's this slightly interesting brown glass bottle in this shape. And the liquid inside is sort of old, what whiskey was before whiskey, essentially. It's certainly worth giving a go. It's maybe one for kind of like if you're more kind of into like your herbal liqueurs, going into like your Amaros, that kind of a thing. But I'd say it's certainly worth giving a go. But if you're more of a whiskey person in its modern sense, then this is for you. There's a little bit of spiel on it. It's quite spiel light. What they have talked about, and you might miss it if you don't actually know, there's a QR code on the back. And you're supposed to scan it and get a bit of information. Now, I thought this would put you to a secret land page where you get to talk about like all the casks and all the process, and it's actually just a bit more marketing, which I'm a bit disappointed about, if I'm completely honest. I was kind of hoping we'd maybe, because they make a big deal about their casks. I happen to know, because I did inquire about their casks last year, they are picky about their casks. They source some really good casks. I have absolutely fucking no idea why they are not screaming about the casks they put in this more, because I happen to know for a fact their cask policy is very good. So if Lindores happen to be watching this, I'd get on that, because you're missing a trick. It's like when I've worked in pubs in the past and they've been like, oh yeah, we bake all our homemade, like all our desserts are homemade. It's like, why are we not shouting about this? This is a massive USP. Why the fuck are we not selling about it? Why are we not talking about this? But anyway, that's by the by. Yeah, I really like the simplicity of this bottle. The labelling, they've gone from saying Lindores Abbey just to Lindores. So they've simplified that down a little bit. I like kind of like the copper engraving. There's like a little gloss on the lettering and stuff like that. It's very simple but beautifully done. Understated. There we go. The name is a bit of a weird one. MCDXCIV, Roman numerals for 1494. Yeah, that's right. He says, pretending he can read Roman. Yeah, off the top of my head, that's about right. Yeah, cool, why not? And it just has a little bit of information here about cask type, bourbon, sherry, and wine barrique. Again, wine barrique really annoys me. What wine? There's loads of wine. Is it a Merlot? Is it a Cabernet? Is it a Riesling? Is it a Fino? You know, what kind of wine are we dealing with here? It's like when customers come up to me and go, oh, I want to pay for my table. Sure, where are you sitting? Outside. Well, that's helpful. Thank you very much. There's 20 tables out there. Give me something to fucking work with here. I needed to get that off my chest, apparently. Barley region, Fife. Just in case you didn't notice them banging on about Fife barley a lot. The barley's from Fife, just in case you missed that. Oh, and they have an unusual spirit still set up. They use sister spirit stills, which is different, and they have a particularly long fermentation period. So, we should actually get into the whiskey itself. I feel like we talked about the bottle and how much I've been looking forward to this enough. Now then, I actually have two of these. I've been looking forward to getting my hands on this for a while now. And I bought a bottle of this on the day of release. I actually set an alarm, got up, went on the website, bought a bottle. And then I waited. And I waited. And I waited a bit more. And I got impatient and I bought a bottle from Royal Mile Whiskies yesterday, because I am shocked that this hasn't sold out. Genuinely, I'm like, what are people doing? This stuff's great. Spoilers, this stuff's great. Got a glass of whiskey here. It's whiskey coloured. We're not going to go too much into the colour because it's pretty standard booze matured in wood colour. There's plenty of people that would pad this out a bit because it's longer video equals more marketing revenue, and YouTube really gets hard nipples if you've got like a 20-minute video. I usually have 20 minutes videos because I don't know when to shut up. But hey. I'm drinking this out of an old Pulteney glass because I do have a Lindores nosing glass somewhere, but I haven't got a fucking clue what I've done with it. So that's annoying. On the nose, again, it has a really lovely bready cereal note to it. There's that reminiscence of Jennifer, which I've been getting throughout pretty much all of Lindores stuff so far. It's almost kind of like one of their signatures. It reminds me a little bit of the kind of like the yeasty quality that Ben Nevis has. It's a good thing. It feels quite clean and light on the nose. It's a little floral. I really love the just strong cereal barley notes that you get off of this. It's one of those whiskies that it smells like it's been grown rather than just thrown together, put in a bottle and slapped with marketing. Weird, but it smells kind of like a summer's day. It smells like green grass, element of pollen in the air. There's even like a little bit of petrichor in there if it's just been raining. Composition of this one is quite grassy. There's a fair bit of fruit, pears, apples. There's a little bit of like a buttered croissant in there as well. There's a richness to it, combined with a kind of floral, grassy lightness. It's a bizarre dance that it's doing. There's a little bit of milk chocolate in there as well. There's like a touch of camphor. Actually, a little bit of like standard white bread. A little bit sweet, doughy, nothing too complex. On a second sip, the richer elements come through a little bit more. There is a bit of a sting to this one. However, there is a lovely, bright vanilla, almost Madeira cake richness to it. Neat, it's a little bit tight, so I'm going to stick a bit of water in it. I'm going to give it a second to open up. Way more of that earthy funk that you get from something, again, like a Ben Nevis comes through. There's almost like a peated influence from this, which is strange because there's none to be found. There's a touch of molasses in there now. It's gone darker. There's a faint iodine note, not kind of like a Lafroig or anything like that. It's almost like a background essence of something medicinal. There's a touch of vanilla, there's a touch of apple in there. I'm getting brown bread and marmalade as well. There's a bitterness, but also a citrusy zestiness to it. Just plenty of earthiness to it as well. There's a little bit of like a red currant tartness on the nose as well. There's plenty going on. It's this bizarre mix of bitter, fruity citrus and a little bit rich. The very first sip, I'm getting blueberry, which is not a common tasting note in whiskey, or in general, really. Blueberries are very distinctive. That's giving way to, again, kind of like a buttered toast kind of a flavour. It's rich, slightly caramelised, a little bit sweet. There's a touch of tartness in there. There's a red berry, or a blueberry in this case, brightness to it. There remains this grassy, hayy, barley kind of note. Earthy, natural flavours to them. Again, second sip, you get a bit of those vanilla characteristics, like a bourbon vanilla. It's a little bit spicy, actually. There's a bit of like a clove, cardamom, cayenne pepper kind of a thing going on, which I hadn't really noticed before. Blueberries are still there, and there is a bit of marmalade, like an orange marmalade bitterness on the finish. There's a fair bit going on. There's a fair, yeah. Radically different from any of the cask draws that I'd tried, but obviously this is a blending of different casks, whereas that was sort of more one note. So you had like one or two characteristics to focus on, whereas these you've got a blending of different things. And it's an interesting first signature. It's a little hot. It's got a bit of a heat to it, which might be off-putting to some. But overall, I think they've done a good balance. I'm not quite sure what the sherry casks are doing with this, because I really don't. I mean, it depends on the sherry ultimately. But again, because they haven't denoted what kind of sherry, they've not denoted what kind of wine. It's difficult to pin down, other than to say that it's not contributing any of the kind of like dark, rich flavours that you associate with like a red wine barrique or a dark sherry influence. So it's possible they're like Finots and Chardonnays or something like that. The bourbon is your primary giver of life to this one. Spice, vanilla, some fruit components in there as well. The fruit will probably come from the longer fermentation period more than anything else. But yeah, this is a very promising start, and I do not regret buying 2 bottles of it, which I think is the ultimate test of that one. But let me know down below. Have you had a go of any of Lindores stuff? Have you tried their new make? Have you tried the Aqua Vitae? Have they been on your radar? Have you kind of like given them a blind eye to other things? Let me know what your thinking is. Thumb this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoy somebody sitting in a chair drinking whiskey and telling you about it, because that's how I relax, apparently. And do join me next time, where I'll be drinking something else.